In 1985, Martin Scorsese delivered one of his most bizarre, darkly funny, and downright unpredictable films. And in the middle of it all was Rosanna Arquette, who made a surprising behind-the-scenes decision about her body that changed how one scene was filmed. Let's just say it's not what you'd expect, and it certainly wasn't about modesty in the way you think. We'll get to that later. For now, let's rewind to the beginning of this chaotic, late-night odyssey. After Hours is a movie about one man's very, very bad night. Griffin Dunne plays Paul Hackett, a lonely word processor in New York City, who meets a quirky woman named Marcy in a diner. They have a short but intriguing conversation about Henry Miller's book Tropic of Cancer, of all things. Paul gets her phone number, calls her later, and is invited to come downtown to Soho to see her. This is the first domino to fall in what becomes a chain reaction of increasingly absurd, frustrating, and often terrifying events. Paul takes a cab downtown, loses his last $20 bill to the wind, and suddenly finds himself stranded in a neighborhood where every possible thing that could go wrong does go wrong. Marcy, played by Arquette, turns out to be a little offbeat, perhaps unstable, and possibly hiding something big. When things with her start to sour, Paul tries to leave, only to find himself caught in a surreal web of chance encounters with eccentric artists, bartenders, punks, burglars, and angry locals. It's like the universe is conspiring to make sure he can't get home. And the more he struggles, the deeper he gets into trouble. Scorsese shoots the film with a kinetic, restless energy, strange camera angles, sudden zooms, and tracking shots that make the whole thing feel like a fever dream. Every character Paul meets adds a new complication. There's Catherine O'Hara as a manic ice cream truck driver, Terry Garr as a beehive-haired waitress, Linda Fiorentino as a mysterious sculptor, and Cheech and Chong as petty thieves who pop up at the worst possible moments. But the road to After Hours getting made was almost as chaotic as Paul's night in Soho. Originally, the film wasn't even supposed to be a Scorsese project. The screenplay by Joseph Minion had been making the rounds in Hollywood when it landed in the hands of Tim Burton. Yes, that Tim Burton, who was set to make it as his first feature. But Scorsese had just been coming off the heartbreak of The Last Temptation of Christ being put on hold, and he needed a smaller, fast-moving project to get his creative spark back. He lobbied hard to take over, and Burton graciously stepped aside, saying he didn't want to interfere with one of his idols. The budget was tiny for a Scorsese film, around $4.5 million, which meant fast shooting, limited locations, and no luxury of multiple takes. They shot mostly at night on the streets of Soho, which in 1985 was still a gritty, half-abandoned industrial neighborhood. It wasn't the gallery and loft-filled art district it is today. The crew had to deal with cold nights, unpredictable street traffic, and the occasional real-life oddball wandering into the frame. Casting Paul was straightforward. Griffin Dunne was already attached, and his everyman charm was perfect for the role. But casting Marcy was trickier. Scorsese needed someone who could be simultaneously alluring, vulnerable, and just a little bit dangerous. Rosanna Arquette fit the bill perfectly, coming off roles that showed both her dramatic and comedic range. She brought an unpredictability to the role that made you never quite sure if Marcy was someone Paul should run from or run toward. Rosanna Arquette was known for being playful and daring on set, but she was also clear about her boundaries. During one scene, Scorsese had planned for her character to be undressing in a way that would reveal a very specific body part. It wasn't full nudity, and it wasn't even meant to be sexual in a traditional sense. But Arquette refused, not because it was too revealing, but because she genuinely didn't like that part of her body and thought it looked ugly on camera. She flat out told Scorsese she wouldn't do it, and the scene had to be reframed and reshot to avoid it entirely. We'll get into exactly what she wouldn't show later. For now, just know it's probably not what you're imagining. Filming After Hours was a grind. They shot over 6 weeks, working nights and sleeping during the day. The crew joked that by the end of production, they were all as frazzled and paranoid as Paul Hackett himself. The long nights created a kind of cabin fever. People became punchy. Little mishaps felt catastrophic. and every scene seemed to attract odd interruptions from real New Yorkers. If you're enjoying this video so far, then please subscribe for more behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories that are even stranger than the movies themselves. It really helps us bring you these deep dives into the wildest moments in film history. One of the film's most unusual creative choices was its almost complete lack of a traditional score. Scorsese opted for sparse minimalist music, relying instead on sound design to heighten the tension. The ticking of a clock, the hum of a streetlight, the distant roar of traffic, these became as much a part of the atmosphere as any visual element. The few musical cues that do appear are often ironic, like the use of Peggy Lee's "Is That All There Is" in moments of existential despair. Griffin Dunne has said that shooting the movie felt like being trapped in a real-life Twilight Zone episode. Every time he thought he understood what Scorsese was going for, a new twist in the script or an unusual directing choice would throw him off balance, which is exactly what Scorsese wanted. That sense of disorientation was key to the film's strange magic. And finally, here's the Rosanna Arquette reveal you've been waiting for. The body part she refused to show? Her feet. Yep. Feet. In one scene, the original plan was for Marcy to casually kick off her shoes, revealing bare feet as part of a vulnerable moment between her and Paul. But Arquette was self-conscious about how her toes looked, thought they were ugly, and told Scorsese absolutely not. Instead, they shot the scene so that her feet remained covered, changing the blocking and camera angles to avoid them entirely. It's one of those tiny, odd behind-the-scenes decisions that you'd never notice watching the movie, but it quietly altered the scene's dynamic. When After Hours premiered, it wasn't a huge box office hit, but it quickly became a cult classic. Critics praised its offbeat humor, its relentless pacing, and its ability to capture both the charm and menace of New York City at night. Scorsese himself has called it one of his most purely fun filmmaking experiences, even if it came from a place of frustration and career uncertainty. Today, After Hours stands as one of the great One Crazy Night movies, right alongside Into the Night and Something Wild. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest projects can leave the biggest impression, and that even a seemingly trivial decision, like hiding an actress's feet, can become part of a movie's legend. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite scene in After Hours? Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look behind the scenes, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a chase the classics with us.